Welcome to the Celtic Star Podcast, a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and once again I'm joined by Kevin Graham.
Hello, Paul.
I'm delighted to welcome this week's guest, who has appeared as a mechanic in High Road, a gangster in River City, a Tim in singing I'm No a Billy, He's a Tim, a philandering Granton Star footballer in the Acid House, and a philandering filthmeister in Trainspotting 2. Simon Weir, welcome to a Celtic State of Mind.
I like Filthmeister, yeah. How you doing?
Very well. Now, this is the first time we've had a guest who has brought in a collection of Celtic curio.
Yeah, it's the inside of a really tortured mind, isn't it? Look at it. My wife's been laughing at me all week as I've been digging things out of the archive and taking things off the walls.
Well, they're
framed.
It's a phenomenal collection, and the first thing I was going to ask you about was your early Celtic memories, but you've actually brought them along. Talk me through the scrapbook from the centenary season.
Yeah, I found this idea. I remember having it because I remember keeping all my Celtic autographs in this. And my brother Robin and I, and then Timothy, who's a couple of years younger as well, was big on writing into footballers as well. So we'd get shoot every week and cut every single picture out and write to everybody from Coventry, but everything at Celtic. But not just send like one letter to Roy Aitken, have 5 letters to Roy Aitken with 20, 30 pictures needing signed. And you know what? He signed them all. And poor Davy Hay as well, the manager at the time, he would send back all these signed photographs. I got a letter eventually from John Aldridge that said, please stop writing. I do not have the time to do this anymore. And basically, and at the end of it, he went, I can't do this anymore. It was like a divorce. And he was at Liverpool. I was like, oh, well, fuck him then. So we used to write lots and lots and lots. And then, of course, it became, as Celtic does, it's an obsession. We were all brought up Celtic fans, obviously. It was a massive Celtic family. And my dad took us to our first game. My first game was against D United in 1983, and I've got the programme here. And my brother's was against Aberdeen the next year. Charlie Nicholas, keep you up, saying, turning and top corner goal. So just great memories. Not particularly successful Celtic teams, but just great memories. But on the back of it, we would write, and I've got one thing here that's a cartoon. I'm going to have to put this up on Twitter later on. This is so embarrassing. Like a cartoon called The Celtic Kids, or The Celtic Kiddos, that I then sent to him, and a design for the Celtic third kit that I think got made. We'll talk about that a wee bit later on, I think, but I think that got made. And lovely letters back from Davy Hayes saying, I see you're very artistic. I remember your last drawing. In other words, please, I can't do this anymore.
Now, when you were getting these rebuttals from the likes of John Aldridge, did that stop you, or did that just fuel your fire?
It made it worse, because then Gary Lineker went to Barcelona. Well, this is great. Him and Hughes, Mark Hughes, one of my favourite players, and wrote to them incessantly. And I've got a wall at home that is covered in like Barcelona and Real Madrid, George Valdano, any World Cup happened, I wrote to them all. I've got signed pictures and bits of memorabilia from everything, and I've got it all in boxes. And I've moved house, just as an actor, I've moved house about 23 times since then, and I've not lost anything.
I'd love to see some more images of some of the letters and the responses that you got.
I've got boxes of them, boxes. But the John Aldridge one's my favourite. I've got ones from David Provan and all that as well, because he'd left. He was my favourite winger, obviously, and he was my favourite Celtic player at the time. And I had wild curly hair, and I thought of myself as a winger as well. More of a centre-half, but I thought of myself as a winger. So I wrote to him long after he'd retired and stopped coaching at Celtic as well. And I got a lovely letter back from him, and it was one of the pictures of him scoring the 1985, that my favourite Celtic goal, the cup final goal. So, yeah, it's great. It's a great collection I've got, actually.
It is a great collection. You've also brought through a few jerseys, but before we talk about them, what was the story behind you designing a Celtic strip that was then nicked by Umbro?
I remember writing to Davy Hay. I've got the letter here, actually. And it was, I remember it was a third kit. So it was around about 1985 I sent it in. And I remember the 1986 calendar coming out, and on the front of it was a team group with the hoops and the third kit. And the third kit looked remarkably like the one that I had designed. And I remember getting a letter from, I don't have the letter anymore, but I remember from a letter from Umbro saying, your design is great, it's been passed on by Davy Hay, just 2 lines, thank you very much for your great design. And at the same time, Duncan Fernley cricket sort of suppliers, I got a letter from them because I designed a cricket shoe, a fast bowler's cricket shoe. I'm telling you, I'm not right now, but I was certainly not right as a child. I must have been kicked by a horse. But I had designed this cricket shoe that I thought this will revolutionise cricket as well. So I got these at the same time, and I kept the Duncan Fernley letter, and I lost the Umbro letter, so I've got no proof. But that looks, and I don't have the original design for the jersey I drew. It could have been pink and yellow for all I know. It could have been like a Rosebery jersey, but I'm pretty sure it was that. And I convinced myself, and that was me with this chip on my shoulder since I was 10 years old. They've nicked my idea. So yeah, I think that's the jersey.
Now, you've brought got another one which was quite, looking at it, it's probably the classic modern Celtic strip, because we've got the V-neck, the crest has been introduced, and it's from the Scottish Cup final of 1980. What's the story behind that jersey?
This is my favourite article of clothing. I only just recently had it framed because I thought that just in case moths get to it, I'm terrified of moths. But I was told, now I got it from an auction, and the auction was from Charlie Nicholas's bar, Nobody's Inn, that closed down, I think, early 90s or something. So I got it from there, and it was a present, and I was told it was George McCluskey's jersey, and that this was the jersey that caused the riot. This is the jersey that stopped booze getting sold at Scottish grounds. I'm not sure if it is, but it's definitely one of the players' jerseys from that, and I've looked through who it possibly could have been. I like the George McCluskey story, but again, that's something you can help me with. Maybe you can try George McCluskey.
We will definitely find out. I mean, that is a cotton jersey, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's not the polyester.
It's the real one. Yeah.
So it's the real deal. And then this controversial top that you've got in the chair there, we've spoken about this one. This is the one that Jack McGinn has been blamed for allowing the red, white and blue on the sponsor. But it's a wee bit different. I've never seen this jersey before.
No, this is a really unusual one. This is one that maybe I could hopefully ask for a bit of help with, actually. Now, obviously it's the most unpopular jersey ever, because it's got the... I remember going to Celtic Park on a tour years ago, and on the wall they had one of these with the most written on it, the most unpopular Celtic jersey ever, and worn for one season. But apparently this was worn, it says Offenango on it, this was worn apparently on an Italian tour, player issued, number 9 or number 19 on the back. But it's the real deal, I think. But I don't know what it is.
We need to do a bit of digging, or someone on Twitter will be able to tell us more.
We'll maybe get a picture of that up and see if someone can find that out. That's an absolute belter though, isn't it?
Now, Simon, you've written to a plethora of ex-players. Have you ever thereafter met them?
Yeah. I got pally with quite a lot of them actually as well. As things went on, I became pals with Joe Miller. So Joe Miller was obviously one of my heroes as well. We got friendly through mutual friends, and we've been pals ever since. And Joe's introduced me to everyone, and in fact, because of Joe Miller, I made my senior football debut 20 years after I'd first signed for Clydebank. So there you go. Years ago, as a kid, I remember I've got a letter, another letter here. Poor people. But I wrote to the Celtic Boys Club for a trial, and I got a letter back saying, yeah, sure, come along and blah blah blah, and write to such and such. And then I got offered a trial. I played for Knightswood Juveniles one game, and I scored a screamer with my left foot, just a total fluke, top corner. And I got a trial for Rangers, and I never went. And I went to the Tennant Sixes and met Colin Brodie, who was the Clydebank reserve goalie. I remember meeting Packy Bonner at that, and him walking right past me with a held out an autograph. Could you sign that? Fuck him. And then the Clydebank goalie stopped and signed it. So I got on really well with him. We sat with his family. And I wrote to him about a month later, and I got a trial down at Kilbowie, and then I got signed by Clydebank. So I played about 5 or 6 games for them, and I injured my knee playing rugby at school, and then never went back. But I remember Celtic scouts coming down to our games. We were getting to the Scottish Cup semi-final, and it was Celtic we were playing against at Barrowfield, and I got dropped, and I was on the bench for it. And that kind of broke my heart. And then I played eventually for the school team at St Aloysius, and it was the first year we had football, because it was a rugby school. First time we were allowed to have, Mr Millen brought football, and it was great. And I played a few games for them, and again Celtic scouts came down. I thought, this is it. And I'd moved from centre forward. I was a centre half now. Obviously, it's my pace. Aged 18, my pace was getting a lot worse. And I remember him giving cards. The scout gave cards to 2 or 3 of the players, and not me. So Celtic, as a kid, broke my heart. Years later, I went down to London, and I was wearing a Celtic top in a bar one night, and a wee guy came up to me with a Celtic top on and said, "Do you want to come and play 11s tomorrow?" and yeah, it was great. And I went along, and it was Birkbeck University. So I played as a ringer for Birkbeck University for 4 years. Because of this one guy, Phil Ross, who's my pal in London, Celtic mad. So we were playing universities football. I broke my foot in a game, came back up the road, met up with wee Joe Miller just for a drink, and he went, "You're a fat bastard. Do you want me to knock that weight off you? I've just taken over at Clyde." And yeah, sure, man. So I came down, him and Graham Roberts had just done a sort of football X Factor, football idol thing for all the released. It was a great idea. It's something that clubs should do now. All the released players, of which there are 400 odd players released at the end of every single season, with no club to go to. A lot of them are lost to the game. Some of them play Sunday League, some of them go junior. But most of them are lost to the game, to be perfectly honest. And these guys that come through youth academies and things, these are not dummies, these are really good players. So he had basically signed 24 players from one weekend of this. They'd got it through heats and things, but they had one weekend of just non-stop games down at Broadwood and selected the whole team. And that was the year Roy Keane signed for Celtic. Clyde got them in the cup.
Clyde beat us in the cup, aye.
The most unbelievable. And I was with the squad the whole time for all that, And So Joe got us in just to train, you know. So I would train every day. So I had 2 seasons from 2005 to 2007 of professional football every single morning. And the funniest stories and drama that goes on in football clubs with Roberts and Joe Miller as well, as that relationship finished at the end of the year quite spectacularly. Joe took over again as manager the next year, and he was brilliant. And I think he would have been there to this day had the club not really wanted to be promoted, if you know what I mean. You know, I think there was a lack of ambition there, and sold a lot of the players that were just great. Some of the players were a great bunch of lads as well. So at the end of the season, I got 2 games. I got 2, you know, behind closed doors friendlies. So I made my senior debut at last, age 33. It was fabulous.
Brilliant.
So Joe's been a pal ever since, you know. And then he phoned us up 2008. He said, "What were you doing Saturday, Biggin?" I said, I don't know. I don't know, writing to footballers probably. He said, "Well, listen, get a suit and meet me at the airport." I'm right, okay. So where are we going? England. Oh, no, what are we doing? Just fucking go. Right, okay, turned up. I didn't wear a suit because I know he does that as a wind-up. So I didn't wear a suit, thankfully, and arrived in my trackies. And there was Tom Boyd and Darren Jackson and wee Martin Compson and Peter Mullen and what the fuck's going on. And the guy who did remember the guy that kicked the guy on fire at the airport?
John
Smeaton, yeah. John Smeaton was there as well. So he's going, I said, "You're going to Wembley." What? So somebody had dropped out. Joe had asked me to join the team, and we went down and we played an England select at Wembley in front of 20,000 fans and won 2-0. And I was in goals. I didn't even know I was going in goals, so I had no gloves. "Where's your gloves?" I said, "I've never fucking played in goals in my life." So we arrived, Wembley Stadium, 20,000, and it was the under-16 international, so it was mega. Bobby Moore trophy. Their manager is Sir David Frost. Ours is Peter Mullen. But I don't know with a wild night out the night before. In a hotel in Kensington, and at 5 a.m, me and Joe go to bed. We were in the room, leathered, and get up, and we played blinders. Darren Jackson scored a belter. Martin Compson scored a screamer, absolute screamer. 2-0. Just the most unbelievable trophy, just the most unbelievable experience ever. And there's me and Tom Boyd as my defenders. Tom Boyd, Tommy Sheridan, and Big Smudger Smith. That's my defenders. And this is just brilliant. But we thought it was going to be 7-a-side because they had like kids' games on. With the wee goals. That's we had all wee goals. And the goals get taken away. And the crowd are all booing as the national anthem playing. And everyone like, oh my God. There it was. Wembley Stadium.
So shut out at Wembley.
Shut out Wembley, man. Shut out. And the only Scottish keeper to have a shutout at New Wembley.
At New Wembley. Aye,
there we go.
With no gloves.
With no gloves. Alan Ruff, circa 78. So thank you to Joe Miller for that. He's just a lovely guy and a great pal, and I've had some fabulous nights out with him as well, and lots of ex-players. And when he was at Clyde, it was people like Billy Dodds would come down, and Tommy Coyne would come down as well and do bits of coaching with them, and it was a lot of old firm players involved there, you know, behind the scenes of things as well. It's a great sort of time to be involved in it, you know, especially as an old man in my 30s. It was great fun. But I was the team's spiritual advisor. That was my term. So nights out, I would hold the purse and things. And,
Terry McDermott.
Exactly, absolutely. So then we to send Roy Keane comes. Roy Keane signs for Celtic. I actually go to Parkhead the day he signed. I've got the jersey there, and I bought the jersey. Got them in the cup. We went to the Westerwood Hotel the night before, and Dougie Bell, who used to play for Rangers in Aberdeen, big, violent Dougie Bell, evil, still an evil man, evil footballer, played against him. He's brutal. He was in his late 40s, and he's still fit as. And he had done serious work on Celtic, and he'd watched the way they lined up at corner kicks, and that was going to be the secret. That's how he undid them. And I went on a few scouting missions with them to watch Celtic, which I felt like a total Judas watching it as they plotted Celtic's downfall in that season. So Roy Keane comes out for his first game, and I have got the Clyde tracksuit on. I'm just behind the dugout, and underneath it I have a Roy Keane Celtic jersey. The whole thing, the whole strip underneath. And I remember pulling it up like that as he walked past, and then the Sky Sports Live, and the wife's phoning me, "You're on the telly." I fucking know. Roy Keane's beside you. I fucking know. I can fucking see him. And Roy Keane was there. So I was one of the first people to shake his hands when he came off the pitch. But my little brothers and my dad were all there as well, and they never have forgiven me. I played 5-a-sides with all his pals, and it took me about a year to go back. I played one game, went back, and they went, "Uh-huh." I said, "Would you forgive me?" "No, right, Judas." That was it. So even my brother, one day I let down my little brother Robin, so I'm terribly sorry for that, Robin. He'll still never forgive me. He's such a Celtic fan. He's a doctor, he's a heart surgeon. He goes to bed early if Celtic lose. That's what he's like. I'm mental, obviously, but he is hardcore.
You're talking Judas. I noticed there is no images or autographs of Judas. Was there previously? Have they been removed?
There is. There's a signed programme that I left. So I was listening to the Mo Johnson thing this morning, which I just loved. It was Phil Differ talking about it. Just honestly, I loved that.
I cursed my eyes forever gazing on the article.
It's the article part. Oh, it reminds me of a great line that I heard. It was Andy Cameron line years ago in High Road, and when we were doing High Road, he was the Rangers end and I was the Celtic end, and we were getting pumped all the time. And I've got a picture on my desk at home, and it's a picture of Andy Cameron with a scarf and the Rangers hat on and a mad grin, and it says, "We just won a cup." And they went, "Congratulations to Celtic from a hun and a huff." And that was the thing, so it was great. But I loved that he came up with an expression that he heard, and it was in the executive deck at Rangers one day. "Come on, Rangers, get into these Romanised Aborigines." So I used to write that in the bottom of his script and everything as well. Oh, Jesus, the fun. So yeah, that was it. So I had pictures. I mean, it was the Mo Johnson thing was great with Walter Smith. Was he genuinely didn't give a fuck? You could say anything you wanted to him. He did not give a fuck. So, yeah. But, I mean, I loved him as a player at Celtic. I absolutely loved him. Because I wore my socks down in those shin guards. And I had the way he used to put the sort of the lapel of his boots out and then you'd laces over it.
He did, aye.
So you had these like golf shoe flaps. My boots would fly, and I size 10 feet, boots flying off all over the place because they were never tied up right as well. It came from him. Style. Great wee player, and then fucking did that to us,
I know. I mean, football runs in your family as well. This is a discussion you and I have had. What is the story with your ancestors playing football?
So I have lots of ancestors on both sides of the family. It's surprising that because I've got brilliant football DNA, so it's surprising that I'm no fucking Pelly. Instead of being a sort of second division slugger, which is what I would have been. Because I realised early at sort of 15, 16, when I saw Celtic come out, and I saw a pal of mine at school, Paul Thompson, who then signed for Celtic, I think, afterwards. It's a great place. It was at Clydebank as well. And I saw him play against Celtic and getting knocked all over the field. I realised I couldn't ever be anything as good as them. I would have been properly a second division club. I could probably have got a game, but I'd have been a second division clubber. So yeah, but my mum's side, I grew up. When my gran died, I was given medals, and beside her bed she had this photograph, and the photograph was of an Arsenal player, and it was her uncle Patrick Boylan. Patrick Boylan, Irish family, came from Antrim, come to Scotland. He was a great footballer, played for Morton, played for the Green Volunteers. I've got his medal from the 1895 Cup final, and then went to Woolwich Arsenal and got pumped 8-0. So he played all season. His first game, actually, the guy beside him went up for a header, a guy called Powell, fell down, broke his arm, and there was a pig slurry thing at the end of the pitch. This was this is the 1890s. And it got infected, and he was dead in 8 days. So that was the guy. And he just replaced the first Welsh international guy called Gus Caesar Jenkins, which is such a great name. So he replaced Caesar Jenkins. So I think things were against him, and he was one of 8 Scots that signed for the Arsenal that year, and they were all removed when they got their first manager the next year. So I've got great stories from all that about their training things as well. They would play whist while 2 of them ran around the track to keep the directors happy, because there was no manager, so the directors just chose the teams. So they got pumped 8-0 by Loughborough, which until a few years ago was their record defeat, and he got sent back up the road and then played a couple of seasons at Morton. And I've got a great match article. I've done a sort of book. I'm writing a book about them all, about Manchester just now, and I interview him after a game they play for the St Mary's Bazaar Fund, where they lose 1-0 to Celtic down at Morton, because of the old Dublin end there as well. It was all Irish, Catholic, Celtic supporting, Greenock punters as well. So it was great. So I've got that as well. On my mum's other side, there's a great player called Claude the Leap Lambie. Great name. Claude the Leap Lambie. The Leap because he was like McGrory. He could hang in the air apparently. And he became a soldier. And I've got all his war records. And he even signed up. His wife dies and he signs up again as an old man and joins the First World War. But his head, the description says, his head is very much scarred. So he's got scars all over his head. And it's all from head knocks. I've got an 1885 report against him playing a game against Hibs for Clyde. And his head fractures his skull and dies. And his death is reported in all these newspapers across England, because there was a big swarm of fatal accidents at football at the time. And they were trying to ban football. And it was not true. Totally untrue. And they all printed this thing the next week that contrary to reports last week, he's not dead. And he actually played the next day against against Burnley reserves. So he went down to Burnley And he played for every team in Scotland, but he was a Gaza of his time. Played for loads of teams in Scotland, and then went to Burnley, scored the first hat-trick in the English Football League for Burnley, decides, fuck it, and goes to the fight in the Boer War. And then appears the next year in full uniform to play for them again while he's on furlough, gets the wrong train. The whole town of Burnley turns out with the town councillor wearing their chains of office. There's something like 2,000 people at the platform, and the train goes flying past the express to London. So he has to wait a week to get the train back. So fuck knows what he was up to. And then isn't as successful. And then an imposter comes the next year, pretends to be him, and is hooked after. It's like the soonest situation, he's hooked like after 20 minutes. This guy who pretends to be Claude Philippe Lambie, now very much changed. Stunning. So I've got a great story about him coming to Cowlairs and playing against Celtic. When Celtic first won the Scottish Cup, it's a semi-final. I think it was a semi-final against Cowlairs, and they've got Claude Lambie as his guest. But he scores, but they get pumped. It's 8-1 or something, they get pumped. And it's great reading about your ancestors, and it's all, he was a big hero, he was a war hero when he won this and he won that. Fucking with him, you get... Poor Claude was, obviously very overweight and wasn't the player he used to be. And he's described in the official history book as poor fat Lambie. This legendary internationalist footballer, poor fat Lambie. So that was it. And then I've got reports of him all over Burnley and the police coming in and doing him for being drunk and disorderly and not finding a single witness to say he was drunk in the whole town. And this happened 3 or 4 times. So he was a real, I was saying, he's more like a Gaza type, he sounds like real character, real proper funny guy as well. So that, and my dad was a great footballer as well. My dad played for Glasgow University and won the Scottish qualifying cup in 71, 72, and then got into the Scottish Cup proper. And I think, had he not been a medical student, I think he would have been. He was a vicious, evil tackler, and still is. Even as children growing up, and you would get right through. My dad would scythe you down the man's game. Just total brutal tackler. And his sort of university reports of theirs, he is impossible to beat on the ground, but he can't header. He's impossible. He just cannot header the ball. He still can't header the ball. So we had that. My dad was a great player, and my great grandfather was at Third Lanark and lots of clubs as well, and scored a hat-trick in his debut. Was on trial at Rangers, played for Airdrie just before they won the Scottish Cup as well, 1925 team. Played for loads of clubs, and at the end of his career, put his medals in a drawer and refused to talk about football again. So my dad didn't know anything about him even being a footballer. He just remembers this sort of strange old man that used to give him maths questions when he went round to the house, and a sovereign. My dad speaks in riddles, by the way, absolute riddles. The paperboy comes to the door and he'll say things like, that's 1080 for the bin wash money. My dad will go, as Prometheus said to the lion, and close the fucking door. So we call him the Riddler, because he riddles people. And his grandfather did the same thing, obviously, as well. So he was great, and my mum's father played football. He was a junior player who, family legend, as he played for Celtic. I cannot prove it.
Another fact that we need to dig out and hopefully help.
Sorry to give you so many questions, but that's the great thing about a podcast. You can pause it and go and search these things.
Put it out there.
I just came here with a list of questions for you, so I apologise for that. Yeah.
And the podcast is all the better for it.
All the better.
The first time I saw you in action was, again, in a football strip for Celtic Star.
Yeah, loved it. Absolutely.
Did you love the book?
Yeah, I was obsessed with Irvin's stuff. I was an extra in Trainspotting because Bobby Carlyle got us on that, I think, at the time. I was trying to get a job at his theatre company, Rain Dog. Got him on that, and he said, "You've read the book?" And that was my introduction to Trainspotting. But I read the first page 4 times because it's written in that, Leith dialect. I just didn't get. The sweat was lashing off Sick Boy. What's that? So it took a bit of goes, but once I got it, I really, really got it. And then we all got cast for it was a pal of mine, Ian Andrew, was in for a casting, phoned me up and said, "They're doing this film. It's the Acid House. You're fucking perfect for one of these guys. There's a guy's a top shagger. You've got to come and go for this." Magic. So I went along for the top shagger. I didn't even know what part it was. I went, "I'm here for the top shagger role. My name's Simon." And there was a guy called Simon in next, and I took his place and I went in. And I got the part.
Tambo
Was the part. Yeah. So it was obviously a great part. Irvin was there. It was his first screenplay and I think his only screenplay that he's actually made himself. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of special to him as well. And we did the Granton Star Cause as a TV film for Channel 4 just to test it. It was so successful that they made the next 2 parts after that as well. I did a wee bit in the soft touch, but they cut it just buying the curry that I eventually get poisoned with. But it was absolutely brilliant, and the boys in it were great. They put all these sort of young actors, young up-and-coming actors together. It was me, Stephen McCall and Gary Sweeney, and we're all Celtic daft.
There's a lot of well-kent faces when you actually go back and
when
watch
you
it.
look at it now, and that's a lot of us started out there as well, you know. And the original Begbie was Malky Shields, and he was in that as well. He's got a great line when they're in the warehouse, and he says to him, "Oh, did you see the game last Saturday?" And he goes, "Like fuck." Like fuck. That cunt's like to tell Lex and me, "Fuck on, a fat cunt." Just brilliant, just proper, as the book is, you know what I mean? So we always thought it was more authentic than Trainspotting at the time, because Trainspotting was an MTV version of the book. I remember seeing the play with you know, at the Sits, and it was fucking unbelievable. And Spud, you know, Ewan Bremner was playing Renton. And it was a dirty, devious, dark, horrible fucking show. But the best thing I'd ever seen. So so it was great to be involved in that, and I've been pals with Irvin ever since. You know, we did the launch for the Ecstasy book at Hibs Stadium. We did, I remember Primal Scream being there and everything as well. I used to meet him all over the place, and met him in Brixton. I lived in Brixton for years. Just a lovely, lovely fella. And it was because of Irvin I got the audition for Trainspotting 2. I couldn't get near it at all. So it was a big film. There's not a lot of parts. When you look at it, there's not a lot of parts. So Irvin spoke to someone, and the email was great that he sent to Claire, the production manager. And the email said, Claire, meet Simon. He was a shoo-in for Sick Boy at the time as well. So I thought, that's nice, isn't it? So then the rumour went round the whole crew that I was the original Sick Boy, so I just fucking let that go.
And again, you were a mad shagger in Trainspotting.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great thing. When I walked in, they said, so there's a couple of roles you're going to go for. All of them are bollock naked. Fine, no bother at all. I mean, hit the gym and ran like you wouldn't believe. I was training 3 times a day for that. And, you know, I always got Joe Miller's, I'll knock that weight off you if I kind of get that in the back of my head the whole time when I train. And Doogie Bell once kicked me up the arse when we were doing a park run, when I just started training with them. And I just did a park run, and I was like 15 stone. I was much heavier. I was really feeling it. And Doogie Bell booted me so right up if the bum had a bone, he hit me in the bone. You know, that tailbone, he hit me right there. Fucking never quit, and I've never stopped running since. So I had that in the back of my mind. So I got really, really fit for it. And again, I met Dan. It was one audition. The casting director was great, and Gail Stevens, and it was just terrifying me. So I terrified her. And a phone call a week later, Danny just wants to meet you. And I walked in, Danny walked out and went, okay, look, just wanted to meet you. So, and what he said was, if we offer you the role, and I don't remember what he said after that, but it was something about you're bollock naked and we're doing full frontals. I went, I don't care. I just heard that and went, I've got this part. And then we had a day's rehearsal, and I had a whole backstory. So my character was originally Punter 2 or something in it. But I came up with this backstory about. So he said, tell me about the character. You know, he's married because of the wedding ring on. I went, oh fuck yeah, he's married. But this guy's jailhouse. He's been 15 years in Peterhead. He's an armed robber. He's like, okay, go on. I said, so he misses his flat, his cellmate. Deep pumping. Right deep, dirty jailhouse pumping. Because it had to be different than the headmaster's scene that he had with the ones before.
Before it,
So he went, yeah, okay, let's rehearse it. So we did it that way. He says, can you come up with some dialogue at the top? Oh, fuck yeah. So that's all greases up, dog. He's a dirty style fucking jail. And I walked right into the camera and went, jailhouse. And I just heard fucking laughter. So when we're filming it, Danny Boyle's singing, my heart skips a beat. Do you know that fucking, what's his name? That Rizzle Kicks and Ollie Murs. I'm doing fucking Trainspotting. So I went stage because I had like 4 days with him. Eventually I went, fucking Danny Boyle, gonna fucking stop. I thought this would be fucking cool. You got a picture of Prince and fucking Iggy Pop at the end. Ollie Murs. I said, I'm sorry, it's just the last thing I heard before I left the fucking house. It stuck in my head. That was my experience of Trainspotting. Danny Boyle singing Ollie Murs. So I was greased up and all that as well. So at the end of it, I said, Danny, come and hug a naked man. And there's somebody took a photo with someone. There's me in a corridor, bollock naked, and like leached onto like a fucking limpet onto a fully clothed, greased up Danny Boyle at about 7 o'clock at night. Going, this is living, innit? So yeah, it was great, man. So that was all thanks to Irvin. And he said, so I went back to do some other scenes, and there's a scene where I walked down the corridor, bollock naked, and get into the lift. And when I got into the lift, there was a woman sitting there with a script. She went, oh, fuck. Hang on. But he, as I did that, he went, you know what, we can't call you Punter 2. He says, well, why don't we just call you Jailhouse? I went, no. Jailhouse. And in the DVD, which I think you have to the left of me,
Signed.
In the DVD, if you listen to the director's commentary, he talks about it in it as well, which is really nice. You know, there's mention of us as well, which is great. You hear him fucking laughing. It was really good. It was just lovely to do. And as I said, there's not a lot of parts in it, you know, and everybody in Scotland was up for it. It was just a real.
And you came up with the jailhouse backstory.
Absolutely.
I thought you were nuts when you were making scrapbooks for Celtic.
Fuck, this is where it all started off. I mean, what else could I have done? Seriously, this is why I'm a very bad employee, because I got a job. I've only ever had a few real jobs in my life, because I've had my own businesses. I've opened shops and things. I've had my own theatre company and my own film company. I'm a terrible businessman. I keep promising my mum I'll never open another business again, because I fucking fail everything I do, but except acting. So so years ago, I had to get a job. So one of our shops closed. We had 2 fashion stores called Zico. We had Zico. It was a kind of a Brazilian Scottish fashion thing. So I would do all the Toffs jerseys. So I was doing Third Lanark jerseys before they were all restarted and everything as well. All that sort of stuff. Retro Celtic tops and everything. And Brazil and Ghana tops and everything as well. The shops did really well. We opened a second one. A wee guy walked in one day and said, I bought the street. We're closing the shops. So I was like, that's great. That's fucking us out of business. So I had to get a job. So I got a job. I don't know if I should tell this story. I got a job at Amazon doing and they put me on the line, and I was so slow they threw me in the shipping bit. This is how bad an employee I am. Instead of being normal, loading up vans and things, I made a World War I trench system out of it, and I fuck him in the back of the head. I would hide in there for hours and go, fuck this. And then one day got sacked in the way it worked. And that was my only other job I had. And then worked in a bit of recruitment things as well, but very little. So this is the thing. The only job you can do as an actor, that if you are mental, is this. So I'm very, very lucky.
I've noticed that you have directed a short film before. Is that something that you would like to...
Definitely, but it's I mean, directing's hard. Directing's hard, man. It's something I would do. I mean, I'm going to do a feature film next as well. I'm not going to waste any more time and do it. I'll do another feature film, but I've got a lot of work coming in as an actor again. So part of it is just staying alive. So if once I hardly worked in my 30s. Worked loads, obviously, in my teens and 20s. I was a child actor as well, so I started off when I was 12. So I've been doing this a long time. So, and it kind of comes and goes. So when I was doing the High Road, then obviously we got the Acid House, then I got Monica the Glen, and Taggart was still going. So you would basically go from job to job to job to job. And then once you've done everything, you are kind of, not in the scrap heap, but then I went down to London. And I went down to London just with a lot of voice work and everything as well. You've got to wait till your face gets older. And then, you know, when Peter Mullen's not available, this face is available, and I'm much cheaper. So that's the thing, you kind of got to stay in the game. A lot of actors chuck it. A lot of the actors that I knew have chucked it. That was the one advantage I've got, and the one thing I've not got about a football career. If I had a football career, if I'd made it as a footballer, I'd be out now. There's only a few that are really good on the telly and on the radios. No, it's not a job for everyone. Would I be interested in coaching or managing? Don't know. But as an actor, you can work until the day you die on stage, and that's what I intend to do, you know.
Well, you've been an actor, you've played quite a few gangsters.
Yeah, which is surprising.
You seem to get Jailhouse, that's...
Jailhouse. He's a tight doll. Jailhouse.
You were also a scouser in the Football Factory.
Yeah, I did a bit in the Football Factory. That was a pal of mine in London. It was great. They said, look, somebody's pulled out, and can you come and do a scene tomorrow? So it was Danny Dyer chucking bottles at us, and Big Frank Harper, and it was the day Celtic were playing Rangers. And it was all real Chelsea headhunters with the guys. So Chelsea and Millwall guys were all the extras. So we're on the bus, and Celtic go 2 up, Larsson scored. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. And I go mad, and I've got the game on the radio as well. But they were cool, man. Only one guy, who's one of my, I'm not going to say who it was, one of my favourite actors, big fucking geezer, walked up to us afterwards and went, all right, Glasgow, yeah, fuck, well, you Celtic, yeah. I'm like, fucking 5 fingers and no webbing, of course, but yeah, don't like Glasgow much. I got a fucking doing up there, you cunt. And that was it. That was my. I was like, you're one of my favourite fucking actors as well. It wasn't Danny Dyer, I have to say, and it wasn't Frank Harper. They're both lovely. But yeah, rain of bottles, and then they ran out of these sugar bottles that they throw that just smash. Real bottles of Beck's. Mental. Absolutely mental. But it became a real cult film as well.
Does it bother you that you keep on playing hard men?
No, not at all. Not at all. Because you've got to find what your USP is as an actor, and then know. So I know if it's a hard man role coming up or a gangster role coming up, I've got a chance against anyone. Because I know, and I've learned, I've been doing it so long that I've learned I ain't going to be your romantic lead. That's what I do. And there's plenty of work for Glasgow hard men and everything. So I've just finished another film just last year that's coming out, I think, next month, called 90 Minutes. That's great. Again, Sunday League, Hackney Marshes, London, and it's right rough, and there's me and an Edinburgh Scottish guy in it as well. There's only 2 Scottish guys, but there's Scousers in it and proper fucking geezers. No, it's just a cracking film. But it's described as a film about football that's not about football, because it then follows all their backstories all through the Sunday League end of season team. But it's brilliant, and of course in that is a Celtic connection, because I wear what a wee Ned once described. Where'd you get that jacket? Fucking Wim Jansen. I've got an old Umbro Celtic jacket that I wear as the coach. Where'd you get that jacket, big man? Wim Jansen.
So you've sneaked that in.
So I sneaked that in, yeah.
I'm just thinking there, Paul, I've got a couple of guys that owe me money. Do you want fancy going to Chatham Doors?
We both do, actually.
Aye, Celtic pools.
One of the things that I spoke to Margot about was the Des Dillon play that you were in. And there was an issue with you getting some kind of coverage on that. What kind of problems did you have?
The play became, I think it's still described as the most successful Scottish play there's ever been. But when we started it off, we took it on in 2005, just when I was at Wee Joe down at Clyde. And I'd come back to Glasgow and we started this show. So Des had it was a script, it was a film script that was on his shelf for years. I said, look, I've started this wee company. Have you got it? And he went, this thing called The Cell, Celtic fan, Rangers fan, locked in a cell together, have it. So me and an actor called Gordon Brown worked on it and worked on the script and updated it, because the great stuff with Celtic and Rangers stuff is, because of the news, this show changes every day of the week. Every time something happens, you put it in. So whether Celtic or Rangers had a ginger manager, then it went in. One of the Rangers fans or a ginger guy. It's that kind of stuff. Everything was in it. So we really did it. We were going to do it as a film. We were looking at locations. Then we toured it. But we could not get any press. We could not get the advert even on... And I was working for Radio Clyde quite a lot as well. We couldn't get an advert on there. Even Paul Cooney went, can I do it? It's called Singing I'm No Billy, He's a Tim. At the time, this was the mid-2000s, that was still considered a sectarian song or sectarian term. So nobody would touch us. And Margot was the only one that would come and interview us, and she got us publicity in the Celtic View and some other papers as well. And we got a lot of Irish press for the tour. We did the show at the Edinburgh Festival. We got 2 Japanese tourists in the front row, completely confused why they'd come into 2 Ouija's, fucking screaming and swearing at each other. Bombed, lost a fortune. And then we toured it, and we toured it for years. Then the government got involved, and they said, look, can you do anti-sectarian workshops? And we toured it all around Scotland. We did a sweary version at night, and we did the kids version during the day, and we did one day, and I walked in, and my first line was, yeah, orange gun, straight out with the kids' audience. You're like, because it was quite brutal. It was quite it was quite a sort of visceral play to do. So then we took it to Northern Ireland, and we took it all around the Cathedral Quarter Arts Festival, and then the police service in Northern Ireland asked to come and take it over there, and we did a schools version in Larne, and it was the first time that the non-denominational and the Catholic schools had been together in the same room. They did the play, silence all through it. The Catholic kids and the Protestant kids were too scared to sort of laugh or really get involved, and it was a weirdest game. It was like a line of policemen and a line of priests that separated the audience. It was just surreal, but it was great to do. And then another company took it on. Me and Des fell out about it, and that was it. It was all finished. But the play is still running and running and running. And again, that's the thing about it. It can change and change and change as you go along, so it'll never sort of run out of things. But Margot was great. She was the only one that would come and interview us for it.
Fair play.
Yeah.
Fair play. All that's left for me to say is thank you very much, Simon. That's been a phenomenal 40 minutes or so.
Cheers. Thanks, guys. Lovely. Cheers.
Celtic State of Mind's previous episodes can be accessed by searching iTunes, Spreaker or your pre-installed podcast player. Make sure to subscribe and you won't miss our upcoming episodes with former players, musical icons, documentary makers and Celtic supporters. You can keep up to date with us and get in touch at Paul Dykes, at A Northern Pros and at Celtic Star Pod. We also have a new website, www.thecelticstar.com. And on that website, we have a host of writers giving you daily Celtic news, including Jim Craig, who gives a morning blog. We also have contributors such as myself, Kevin Graham, David Potter and Scotty Allcroft. Tune in next week. We will have another guest with a Celtic State of Mind.
Frank McAven's book. What's that, son? I'm reading this. So I've laughed with Ken Buchanan all the way down, and I got him to sign the book. And I gave the book, without reading the rest of it, I gave the book to my dad, who's a doctor and quite sort of, quite sort of stern. He phoned me up. It's just a book about shagging. Because all of it scored 3 goals today. Fucking magic. I was working in the bins, magic. What a game. Then I met this guy and he's chatting away, but his bird's feeling me up, so I'm feeling under the table. Next minute I'm pumping him. He's wanting me to pump it. The whole thing's that much football and that pumping. So yeah.
He says when he dyed his hair to blonde, it changed his life.
I'll bet.
Aye. That was what did it.
Yeah, he's the original sick boy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Tell him that. Irvin got everything from watching McAvenny, man, at West Ham. Everything. That'll do.
Ready to go?
Good to go. We do a really shit intro, so
I've
apologies.
listened to a few of them, yeah.
And you're not disagreeing.
Fucking hell.
That should be the intro. We'll just call it that.